my name is Russell, and this is the Chit List, a series in which I pick any number of games that fit within a category of my choosing in order to showcase some cool games. Today's episode will be looking at games that use the box in an interesting way. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. As in stuck inside the... Never mind. Number 1, Backgammon. The timeless game Backgammon was the original inspiration for this list, as the game has such an instant pick up and play style, and that's down to the fact that the game takes less than a minute to set up, is played within the box itself, and is also packs away incredibly easily. Did you know that in the 1500s the Catholic Church banned dice games? As a result, people were inspired to make foldable boxes that could be disguised as things like books. Polly Pocket certainly owed them a lot. Number 2, Wavelength. From one game played entirely within a box to another, Wavelength is a really highly produced game all about measuring subjective things, like is a calzone more of a sandwich than not? Or is this a normal thing to own or weird one? The notable dial sits nicely in the box, becoming a sort of showpiece, and the real impressive bit is how the whole game needs very minimal setting up, with scores tracked, cards displayed, and dial measured all within the cardboard confinement. So, on a scale of boring to exciting, where do you think Wavelength's box use sits? Number 3, Ice Cool. This penguin-themed dexterity game is made up of several nesting boxes, and no, that's not a bird joke. It's actually how the game set is formed, using wooden fish pegs to lock together the boxes to create the game's high school, or ice cool for those who missed the pun. For around about 15 minutes or so, you'll take turns flicking your penguins around the school trying to catch one another, or flicking them through the doorways in order to collect points. You might even be able to master some epic trick shots which see your penguin flinging over the walls. The game has a sequel, Ice Cool 2, which is very similar but can be combined with the original to create even bigger levels, including one that incorporates a lift which you can use to travel between the two different floors. Now, this isn't in 3 dimensions, but maybe we'll be seeing an Ice Cool 3D in the future, perhaps? Number 4, Rattle, Battle, Grab the Loot. Rattle, Battle, Grab the Loot not only has one of my favourite game names ever, but it's also a really cool seafaring adventure with great artwork and a sense of humour. The aim of the game is to spend several rounds battling pirates and collecting loot, which you can then trade for new crew, ship upgrades, or victory points. The bulk of the game is played inside the box, which forms the sea, where the ships, represented by these cool translucent dice, will battle it out. The dice are dropped in, and where they land determines where you can sail to, who you can battle, and which treasure you can get your hands on, with various obstacles and scenario rules changes thrown in to mix it up a bit. But let's be honest, the real treasure is that I managed to get through this entire segment without any pirate-based puns. Number 5, the Magic Labyrinth. When it comes to boxes, Drei Magier-Spieler are not afraid to use them. One of their more innovative titles is the Magic Labyrinth, or if you'd like to say it in the original, more fun-sounding language, De Magische Labyrinth. This game tasks players with making their way around a maze with walls that you cannot see in order to collect items. Each player has a magnetic wizard on top of the board, which is linked to a steel ball underneath the board. As you move around above ground, the ball does too, and if it should hit one of the hidden walls, it will drop, and the player will have to start again from the beginning, using only their memory of where the walls are to stop it from happening again. It's very tactile and a great way to use the box that's also really clever. It may not be real magic, but it sure looks like it. Number 6, Shaky Mana. Shaky Mana, or Panic Mansion depending on where you buy it, is one of the only games you can demo inside the shop you buy it, because the box is the game. In this family-oriented game, you'll use your hands, as well as the box itself, to maneuver various spooky-themed items around the 8 connected rooms in order to achieve a certain goal. Because each piece is differently shaped and therefore moves differently, it's actually quite tricky to get them where you want to without moving some other ones as a result. This may not be a particularly strategic title, nor a hugely replayable one, but it's hard to argue with the sheer simplicity of the design here. If only moving real houses were this easy. Number 7, Slide Quest. It's perhaps of no surprise to you that a list like this would contain quite a few dexterity titles. Slide Quest is played mostly inside the box, using levers based on each side of it in order to maneuver a knight, or rather a ball bearing in a fancy knight costume, around the levels. You will defeat enemies, avoid triggering off dynamite, and make your way around precarious levels and eventually even defeat bosses. This is definitely an underrated, if very short, gaming experience with solid production quality that could honestly do with an expansion or two. Here I wanted to write a joke about sliding into the DMs, but just no. Number 8. Puzzle solving games. There will not be any spoilers in this segment, but like your friend who doesn't realise that telling you a film has a twist is in itself a spoiler, no matter how much they argue otherwise, to speak of any game in particular would probably take away from your enjoyment of it. But if you know, you'll realise exactly why I couldn't leave this entry off the list. Talk about thinking inside the box, huh? Okay, that's it. You'll get no more out of me. Number 9. Flying Goblin. Another dexterity game that's fully earned its place on this list is the relatively new Flying Goblin, as the box itself becomes the multi-roomed castle, even with a 3D tower once fully assembled. You'll spend your turns pinging goblins into specific rooms in order to gain gold or other benefits, but be careful because some rooms can contain a nasty surprise instead. It's actually more strategic than your average throwing game, as you progress you can unlock extra characters and even upgrade your abilities. But the real question people are asking is, are you flinging those goblins with a catapult or a trebuchet? Number 10. Mafia De Cuba. This game is a mafia-based social deduction game with a bit of a difference. Nobody has a role at the beginning, and the mob boss holds a box, the game box, that contains 15 diamonds and some roll tokens. On your turn, when you receive the box, you'll sneakily remove any number of diamonds, a roll token, or even sometimes nothing at all, which will determine your role for the rest of the game. Because you'll be passing the box around until it gets back to the mob boss, each of you will know a little bit of information which will help you in your new objective, whether that's trying to steal the most diamonds, helping the mob boss uncover all of the thieves, or even catching the mob boss out as an undercover CIA agent. The game has a satisfyingly tangible quality because the game actually looks like a cigar box, and even trying to sneak the things out of it in the first place is quite a challenge in itself. However, just make sure that all of the diamonds are accounted for when you're done with the game, as it's very easy to accidentally take one away with you, and nobody likes a real thief. Number 11. Warhammer 40k Recruit Edition. For our final entry, it's time to flip this entire list on its head by doing the same things to the boxes themselves. Warhammer 40,000 Recruit Edition not only introduces you to the wallet emptying addiction known as Games Workshop miniature games, but it also uses the box's base in the game itself, illustrated accordingly as part of the terrain. It's not the only game to do this, as Tiny Epic Tactics also used the same idea, but this time with multiple boxes for more variable level setups. It's a really cool idea, and it just goes to show that every part of a game can be utilised. But more importantly, I think I finally found a use for all those leftover expansion boxes when I'm done combining them with the originals. So that is it for this episode. If you think I've missed any, please feel free to drop a comment below with your own suggestions. Who knows, they could make it into a future episode. Also, if you'd like to know when future episodes of this and other series drop in the future, please consider subscribing using the button below this video. If you did enjoy this video, please consider also giving it a like and even sharing it amongst your social media friends, as this will help my channel to grow. And that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed. My name has been Russell, and remember, there's always time for chits and giggles.